Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, VSW Stoner, with another episode of VSW. Tonight, we brought it back. Gary the Picture Chick. Welcome.
I am happy to be back.
How is it going? You know, it's been a couple months, right?
Yes, it has. It's been an exciting couple of months for me.
But you've had, that's what I was going to say. That I'm seeing news coming out of your feed almost on the daily, and it's all positive.
Yeah, I want to preface this by saying that I'm coming out of a very toxic relationship, and I'm finally reclaiming the life I was meant to have.
You know, though, there's nothing wrong with that. There's never a right time in your life to restart, to hit that restart button and say, you know what, this is not working. This is not good for me. This is toxic. And get out and get into the groove that works best for you. And, I'm glad you're able to do that. Some people never can get out. You know what I mean? They're always trying, or they don't even know what they're in until it's unfortunately too late, or they just, they get stuck in that trap. But congratulations for getting out of that. And of course, but that's not why we brought you on. We didn't come in here to bring in your relationships and such. There's some more big news out there, though.
Yes, there is.
And I have to say, I'm an avid reader. I do like reading books. Congratulations on putting one out. That takes a lot. It takes an awful lot to do. For those at home listening, it's finally finding and accepting myself. That's great. Is it like a self-help book? Is it on that kind of guideline?
Well, I guess when you look it up on Amazon, it does kind of come up under self-help. But basically, it's my very first book of poetry. I have always been a writer my entire life. I usually write like little short stories, sometimes for myself, sometimes for my friends. There was a time that I did post some of my stuff online, but I never really had a chance to foray into poetry because when I was in seventh grade, I went to kind of like a mini poetry period and I tried writing it. And I showed one of my teachers my poetry, and she kind of gave me the look. And when you're a kid and you see an adult tell you that your stuff stinks, you kind of repress that. So
Yeah, you do. You do. And being in arts and being into any kind of, creative kind of spark, you kind of take all the input in. I remember, growing up, I went the artist route. I was a big art person. That's how I always expressed myself, drawing and such. And then I did get into a period where I too was enjoying the art of poems, and I started writing poems. I had a blog at the time, and I'd write these different poems. And poems are poems. So a lot of times they were driven by emotion, but they weren't driven by action. So like I might have been writing something I was thinking, but it didn't mean that I was acting on it. And at the time in my life, I too was going through something very toxic in my relationships, and I was very down, and I was very suicidal and depressed. So almost all of my poems were very just devastatingly sad. And people just didn't like that. They were like, "Don't you write about anything upbeat?" And I'm like, "No, not really." And then I kind of went, I kind of took that into people not really wanting to like that kind of thing. And so I ended up collabing with another poet and did like the drawing and did artwork with it. But yeah, you do kind of take that in and just like, well, maybe I shouldn't do it. But you didn't listen to that person, you didn't listen to that teacher, and you kept going.
yeah, like I said, I've been writing my entire life, and so I kept it to short stories and stuff. And actually, in high school, I took a writing class, and I pretty much got A's on a lot of my stories. But but the teacher at the time put on one of my stories, "Can't you write anything light?" Because I'm really big into like Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the um dark side kind of thing.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
I like
Like
those. Yeah,
there's a
I
word
grew up.
that's almost well, there's a word for that kind of hard, but it's like it's almost short story horror, or just just like a
Yeah,
couple
I
of
was
short
writing a
stories in
lot of
one book.
that. So my teacher wasn't exactly happy with that. And I did try to write a happy story. And she wrote back, it's a good story, but is this just a pipe dream? And I was like, what do you want from me? It's like, what can I write? I can't write anything to make you happy. So at
See,
that
I
point,
got
I just gave up and I just started writing just for myself. So
yeah.
everything I wrote was just for me. And it wasn't until a few months ago during my military veterans class that we had a class on art, and the guy leading it was a poet. And he was like, I'm challenging you to write a poem about, and I was like, I don't really know. And I told him the teacher's story, and he goes, just go with it and see what happens. And I wrote my poem, and just to be on the safe side, I sent it to the poet to see what he'd say. And he was like, damn, that's good. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, that is amazing. What do you mean your teacher says you can't write poetry? And I read the poem to the class, but it was so emotional that I actually started to cry because it was based on what I was going through at the time. It was the beginning of my divorce. So it was pretty emotional. And it's actually the first poem in my book. So I just was like, you know what? Let me give this a try. So I started writing some more poems. And then the next thing I know, I had a bunch and I was like, hmm. Looked it up. I went to Amazon and Amazon has a self-publish option.
Oh,
And
do they now?
yeah, after about 6 hours of trying to get the silly thing put together, it took longer for me. I mean, I wrote all these poems, but that book took almost an entire day to put together until
Yeah.
finally I launched it and I went live on May 10th. And I'm happy to say that as of the end of May, I've already sold 18 copies of my book, and it's been read on Kindle. About 141 pages has been read on Kindle. So pretty,
Congratulations. Congratulations on that. And that's what I'm saying. Like I've been something so like yes, I had a bad experience with the poetry. That being grim, but I did have a knack for writing stories similar to like you said, I actually have a page that has, something that got me in the literary world was something called creepypastas, which were basically, like short, crazy horror stories. Could be real, could be fiction. You had things like Slender Man, but you also had almost urban legendsy tales that were almost, too good or could be real or pulled from real stuff. So I started to really get into that. I started to write into that. I actually did. I used Lulu Press. It's another kind of similar option to Amazon. You can self publish, although it it's harder to get it distributed to Amazon, if that makes sense. It's still like
it
you
does.
publish it, but since Amazon has its own publisher now, you can get right into Amazon. Where then you have to like send it to them, and they have to approve it. They have to like it. Some stuff they said it's like no, other stuff they're like okay, cool. But you can still, on the thing. I actually, and I've done a few different books over the years. I started with, some I did a replica book. There was a movie a long time, well, now it's a long time ago called, I believe, it was with Johnny Depp. It was like The Ninth Gate. Um
Oh yes, the ninth. Yeah, the ninth gate where he
yes,
has to
and it
find
was
the key
about
to
a
open the
book
gates of
collector.
hell.
It was about a book collector going after a real book supposedly written by the devil.
Yeah,
And
you
I
read
got
it
a
out loud,
hold
it'll open the gates.
Yes, and I got a hold of the photos that were shown in the movie, and I mean, knowing some Latin and stuff, I put together some stuff, and I put together a full replica of the book, and I put it out there on Lulu, and all of a sudden, the money started racking up and racking in, and I was like, oh my god, people are buying this thing up, and sure enough, they love that book, and then I wrote some of my own stuff. Did okay, a couple copies here and there, and then I stopped. I stopped writing altogether. I got into other stuff, and then I actually the funny thing is a while back last year, I actually had another author come on. She had written a wrestling book, and it was the first time I ever delved in onto the podcast about something other than wrestling. And I was like, but it's okay, it kind of covers it. So I started to get back into that. I ended up putting out a couple of parody books. I put out the Pimp's Bible, which was pretty funny. And I put out a couple of like short story books, and then I put out a couple of like horror anthology books that have just different horror short stories, very quick, 4 or 5 pages, just kind of oh my god, or just shock factor stories. And that's where I really like to read a lot, or if I'm to choose to read now. And same thing with watching stuff. I love that anthology kind of feel because it's very quick stories. I don't have to be invested for 2 to 3 hours to get the jump of the pop that I need. I can, happen in 15, 20 minutes, kind of like a good wrestling match, right? The story
Yeah.
can be told in 15, 20 minutes, not 2 hours. But enough about me. Honestly though, I am really proud because not only are you taking, it's easy for me to write about fiction or to write about things that are, not so personal. But, it's very hard to write about real emotions and real things that affected you. How was that process writing these things?
Well, like I said, the first poem called Scars was based on my declining relationship with my now ex-husband, who I felt like really betrayed my trust. And there's no worse scar than the scar of betrayal. And then slowly I started doing other poems too. There was one time during my vets class where we were talking about female veterans, and as a female veteran myself, I started feeling all kinds of emotions and I started to cry. And then I wrote a poem called Am I, talking about asking if I really am a veteran, because in my mind, a veteran is someone who's actually done stuff. And I was only in the military for 2 years, I didn't even deploy. Um, and then it just kind of snowballed. I just started writing. I wrote about my kids. I wrote about my childhood. I wrote about my brother and sister, my nephew. And then I
Is
wrote other things too, like about being on social media, finding myself, as the title of the book says. And next thing I know, I just had all these poems just all put together, and um, I was like, I want to share it and let me give it a try. And if in fact, if you'd like, I could read one of my poems from the book right now. If you
Yeah,
would.
we will have you rewind. I did want to kind of go back to a few things you said. You mentioned something about the military. Does that kind of irk you that you signed on but weren't deployed? Is that something that kind of eats at you at time to time?
It really does because recently we had the Boots on the Ground Memorial brought to you by Operation Stand Down, which is a great group of people that help me out a lot, and they help out all kinds of veterans. And for those of you who don't know, Boots on the Ground is um, a memorial dedicated to all the soldiers fallen after post 9/11 from Iraq and Afghanistan. There's 7,000 boots there, and each one represents one soldier from each state, um, including Rhode Island, which has its own separate circle of boots. And every time I go there, I just get very emotional because I'm like, yeah, I may have served in the army, but these are the true heroes. These are the veterans. But they always assure me that I am a veteran, and I know I am.
Well,
But
you
I
are.
also
I mean, it's
know
not
that
like you chose not to go. It's just when you signed, you happened to not be in wartime or whatever time it was. It could have been different for you. You could have been over there. You could have been one of those boots. I mean, we don't know. Things could turn out different ways. But I get that. I get that. But you signed into it with all the intent of doing whatever was necessary to defend the country. And I think that is the most important part of it. You shouldn't beat yourself over not getting deployed because, well, again, you can't pick yourself where to go.
yeah,
You
my
know.
counselor says the exact same thing. He said that what if you had gone over? Would you still be the same person you are now? And that really stuck with me because, yeah, I could have just as easily been, like you said, I could have been one of those boots, but I've also could have been someone who had. I mean, I already have PTSD, but to have severe PTSD, like some of the soldiers I've spoken with, you know, yeah, that's something that goes through my mind all the time. But there are still moments, fleeting moments, where I'm like,
I mean, of
I,
course, there's plenty of people that have gone and come back too, and served their, tours and have come back, and some got medals, some didn't, but they've done it and they did survive. Obviously, it's not like it's a death sentence to go to the army, but there is that risk factor that's always there. And I always it's something I never really get to talk to a lot of vets. Honestly, I really don't. And in the wrestling world, I don't talk to them enough. So I don't really delve into that part of their lives. You know what I mean? I don't get that deep.
Well, it
The
took
only
me
person
30
I
years
pro-
to finally speak up about it. So yeah,
you know,
it
but
sometimes can be
the
a
only
long
person
time.
I probably would ask about it was the one guy that didn't serve at all, and that would be Sergeant Slaughter. He got all the medals, the awards, and everything, and he didn't even enroll.
So yeah,
Yay!
yeah, but believe it or not, there are actually some soldiers who just stay in the military for many years who don't deploy, but they still have a military career, and they don't feel like they're veterans when they are, because even though they didn't deploy, they were still in for like 10, 15 years,
Yeah,
doing office work and
but the
stuff.
military
But in
isn't.
their mind, they don't feel like they did anything because, like me, a soldier, someone who goes off and does something, like, goes off
That's
to
a,
war.
yeah, that's a soldier's career, but the military is something that runs 24/7, 7 days a week. It never stops. It's not just abroad, it's also at home. There's people running in the Pentagon, there's people running state to state. There's people that got to be ready for any type of emergency. You have Homeland Security type. You have many different levels, plus then you got the National Guard that's involved. I was once, and the prospect of looking into that, I didn't pass for age, and then another time earlier than I didn't pass the actual physical part of it because I had some back issues at the time. And I was all crooked when I went in there, and it was like no. But you know, um, they were talking about jobs that are all home based. I wouldn't even have to travel any. Maybe you have to go and deploy here for some, but most of the time you'll be spending your time here abroad and never seeing any action. And I'm just like, because they wanted my computer skills, they wanted whatever skill I brought. But again, it's what you sign up for. It's what you kind of look at. There's many options. The military is a very broad statement. There's so many different divisions. Like you said, I mean, I guess you can, like you said, you can be a military specialist. You can sit in an office in Washington and still be in the military for many, many years. Never have gotten those boots on the ground. Never saw conflict eye to eye. But I
Yeah,
mean that
exactly.
there's, like I said, many varieties. But everybody, for the most part, signed up to it in the beginning, knowing that there could be a risk, especially the older generations. There was always a risk of getting drafted, even for people that weren't in the military. Nobody was safe at some points. They were like, hey, you had to sign this paperwork. I remember high school; they made us sign, and if things happened, you were getting hauled away.
Yeah, it was very, like I said, it took me 30 years to finally say the phrase I am a veteran. I would say I was in the military, but I never said I was a veteran. And so yeah, that's why thankfully the class that I take through the Providence Clemente Veterans Initiative, it's a great group of people. We meet 2 times a week. It's over Zoom. It's like a college course, and we talk about military history through the humanities, but it's more like a support group than anything. And some of these people have become like really dear friends of mine. People who've been in the military for anywhere between 3 to 5 years to 30, 40 years in the military. And they all say the exact same thing. It's like, you were a veteran, you took the oath, you joined the military, you are one of us. And they've helped me out a lot. And in fact, another guy in the class, he was also a poet. He actually signed up to try to be the poet laureate of Rhode Island, and he saw my poetry and he gave me the thumbs up saying that it was really good. He's trying to get me to go to like a poetry open night, but it's like every open mic night here in Pawtucket, but it's like every time he invites me, I'm at work. It's like it's like the timing is never right. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's the reason why
I
I put
used
the book
to
out, because I
know
wanted to
some
get my poems out there.
I used to know some people in that kind of scene that would go to the open mic nights, and we had a pretty thriving scene in Cambridge, here at Harvard Square. There's a lot of like places that would be underground. People could just go open mic, read their poems and stuff, and you get cool feedback. But everybody was positive, and that was the cool part about it. But like I said, I see this, as you're writing these poems, you're releasing these feelings, you're releasing these pent up emotions, you're releasing negativity with it, and with each poem you're starting to heal yourself.
Yeah,
Like
that's
you
why.
said, finally accepting yourself. In one point you just said, you accepted yourself as a veteran, not just in the military. That's part of you, and that's who you are, and that's accepting you. But yes, we would love to hear one of your poems and how they go.
All right. So this one, okay, this one is called Finding My Voice. No matter what, I tried to speak. I was told to be quiet. At times, I was told, shut up. I'd speak, but no one would listen. I spoke in written word, but no one would read. I spoke on air, barely anyone listened. I spoke online, comments were cruel. I kept talking. I refused to be silent. I have a voice. We have a voice. Keep talking. Keep writing. Keep recording. One day, someone will listen. Someone will hear. Someone will read. Someone will play it back, no matter what.
It's beautiful and it's true, it's a true statement what you said, it reminds me of even myself. I can resonate in that whole poem. It's like there's days that I don't want to do even what we're doing here. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. And it's just like, no, keep pushing. People are listening. There's somebody out there listening. There's somebody out there cares. There's somebody out there that, wants to hear this interview or wants to hear this person, or they might need to hear it. Who knows what they need in their life at that moment that they listen to it. Everything sometimes happens for a reason and lines up. So I do keep doing it and I do enjoy it. But sometimes life has its ways of trying to keep you down. And
Yep.
inspirations like you just said and thoughts like that is what keeps people going.
Yeah, that's exactly why. I mean, there was a time I had a podcast myself, and I
Yeah.
just felt as though like, oh, we'll do the show for that two people who are listening, and but I knew that the show. I didn't give up on the show. I did it for 5 years. I enjoyed every year. I had a lot of guests on my show, as I told you on the last podcast, many of which went on to WWE,
I
ROH,
mean, you had Matt
VSW.
Hardy for crying out loud. You've had big names, big superstars here.
So, and I know that, I would, I even found myself on Apple Podcasts and I saw that there was a review, and the review was 1 star. Sorry, couldn't listen to it. And I was like, hmm. But then I thought on the positive, hey, you listened to it. So somebody heard it.
Listen,
And I,
99% of it is somebody wrote that 1 star review, probably knows you, probably was jealous of the guests you were getting, and said whatever they said so it doesn't get any likes. But guess what? One review, 1 star review, and no reviews, it still brings attention to the product. It still draws in, and something like that, it's blatant. There isn't enough substance. Can't listen to it. Why can't you listen to it? What about it annoys you? Be thorough. I write a lot of Google reviews. Be thorough in what your issue is. Don't just go out there and throw 3, 4 words, because that's just, anybody can do that. If you really have an issue with the product, say why. Why can't? Well, what about it annoys you? People want real feedback out there. People don't want bullshit. They don't want to hear, just 2 words like you suck or something. But if you say you suck because, your mic keeps cutting out every 2 minutes, your lighting is terrible, there's a glare. I can't stand, half of your guests that you get on, they have a bad rap. Like if they bring details, then you can make real change. You can change products and you can change the way you do things. Sometimes people don't know that they have issue or whatever it is. So I mean, like I said, I don't take the reviews or what people say too hard too much, because and there's also just the whole, like I said, troll factor. 99% somebody that on there just jelly. Jealousy's a motherfucker, especially even in podcasting. Wrestling podcasting, it gets there. It shouldn't be there. I'm very lucky right now. I'm working on, I got my VSW podcast here, but I also work with the Vic Musket podcast network, and he's brought in a bunch of us podcasters together. We all do different shows together, and I do like an indie roundup every Tuesday. I go through all the results of the indie shows. There's another person, that talks about, another thing. Somebody, shoots the shit and has like an overall discussion. And some people come in, we hop on when we can, each host, and it's kind of the same format. But it goes to show you that people can work together. You don't have to be that so, kind of giving everybody shade. There's a lot of fans out there. There's a lot of people, listeners. There's a lot of everything that people can share.
yeah, that's why I put the book out, because it's a different way of expressing. Like, I mean, I know in the back of my mind, I always know that someday I'll put stuff out. Like, I have a Medium page. Medium is a place you can go to write like certain blogs and blogs and stuff that other writers can check out. And on there, I've written stories about my childhood, my upbringing. I finally got around to telling my story about the abuse I suffered as a child. And I've gotten, they don't do thumbs up, they do claps. And I've gotten a bunch of claps for a lot of the essays that I've written about my upbringing. Some of the stuff I've written for my class, a lot of people give me great reviews. And actually, I've just discovered that my book is on goodreads.com and
Awesome.
has gotten 3 5-star reviews. So,
That's awesome. So see, like, and those are real reviews from real readers that are reading something that are
yes,
saying,
they
hey,
are.
nobody just goes on there, especially there, nobody goes on there to troll. That's the thing, and it's always great seeing the validation, saying, hey, someone's, taking the time to write about my product. And again, I always tell everybody, it doesn't matter if you're a musician, an artist, music, whatever you do, if you create some with your own creativity from your mind, you get it and you can get it sold. Even just one of it, no matter what it is, even a small drawing, you're a success. You sold your creativity. Not everybody can do that. That's kind of hard. You have to have something special, to sell creativity. You're getting somebody else to buy your dream and idea. A lot of the times, self publishers and stuff, we're not working for the masses. We're not writing something to be the next Harry Potter. We're not even thinking about that. A lot of times we're writing stuff that's relevant to us. You're writing about your own life. You're writing something that's helpful to you. If it sells, that's the bonus part. People are buying into you. And that's also the cool part. People are buying into you. Like, oh my God, they're reading my life story here. And, maybe it's through poems and not, but they're buying it and they're liking it and they're loving it. And this is great. Not only do you get to express yourself, but you're making it. It's working.
Yeah, all of my friends are pretty much brutally honest with me when they tell me things. And so far, I've gotten a lot of the one thing I've gotten a lot of is "you made me cry," and I'm just like, really? And it turns out, I guess if my poems had a lot of emotions behind them, and one friend actually said to me because some of the poems are about my ex, they were like, I didn't realize you were going through that, and that's what got to them. So if I can, I guess if I can just help somebody, you know, learn how to express themselves, or if someone sees that and thinks, yeah, I'm kind of going through that too, and helps them out, I am very happy with it. And I'm happy to say that I'm already working on book 2. I've already written several poems for the next book, but I'm going to actually take my time with this one. And I'm hoping for a fall release. I'm going to give the
Awesome.
summertime to see how the book goes.
Yeah,
Still trying to
definitely.
sell some copies, and I've actually been um, in contact with someone who may want to do an author's night with me. So
That would be awesome.
fingers crossed on that I can sell some books in person.
Yeah,
But
signed copies. Who doesn't want that? Meet and greets are great, even on the author scene. Get out there, or you can showcase yourself. And that's like I said, I'm really proud. It takes a lot to put yourself out there. I had it myself. I had a decent childhood. I won't complain about that. But I had some issues in high school. There was some pretty dark shit that took place, and I'm still yet to fucking reveal about that. I just haven't got there yet. The time I did, nobody believed me. They thought I was insane. So, I just never did it again. It's very bold. It takes a lot to unrelease trauma, to share it with the world, to make yourself that vulnerable. Like I said, I commend you 100%. That's not an easy thing to do. Um,
no, it isn't
you know,
really.
you, you said you're writing your next book. What's your writing process like?
Well, for the first one, it was just I just wanted to get a lot of emotions out. Like I just had so many things to say. For the second book, it's like little observations here and there, and just rediscovering what I actually enjoy, what I love. And some of the poems are dedicated to people that are very close to me, and just little random things here and there that I see that or I'll hear something and then it just clicks something inside of me, and I just sit at the computer and I just type, 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 and then I look at it and it's like, okay. And I wrote a poem earlier today that actually had me tearing up. So I'm like, okay, if I can get that kind of emotion out of me and I'm the one writing it, who's to say? I shared it with a friend of mine and they were like, damn. So
And that's the thing. People shouldn't be afraid of emotion, whether it's happy, people like comedy. Some people like sad movies. Some people like horror. Me personally, I like horror. I'd rather be scared than sad. Um, but these are all emotions. We go through them daily, no matter what. Things happen that are sad, things happen that are happy, things happen that are scary. There's nothing wrong with something drawing that. I think people feel, a little bit scared or skittish when they start reading about these real life feelings. I think that's what turned people off to my, poetry. It was a little raw and real. At the time, like I said, I was feeling really lonely and really sad, and it just things weren't happening in life. And I made some poems out of it, and people were just like, like I said, that negativity. Sometimes it's not that it's negative, it's people don't know how to deal with that sadness, and or they relate to it too, and then it triggers them off, and they just again don't know how to handle that. And sometimes that happens with sad things. Sometimes I don't watch like sad movies because it'll bring up shit or it'll make me remind me of something that happened. Um, and I know a lot of people that kind of like that, especially when they deal with trauma or past traumas. There's certain things they just can't watch. But again, the more you talk about it, the more you release it, the more you share about it, the easier it becomes, and it's not so taboo of a topic. Because it really isn't. Everybody, has something that they've gone through, and everybody has these emotions. Like I said, no one's life is just always happy, always sad, or you know what I'm saying. It's a mix. And sometimes, sure, it's easy to write about the happy things, but that's not where the benefit comes. You can write, a poem about if you're feeling happy or whatever, but the benefit comes when you start to put these negative emotions that you've had or these situations on paper and you see them in front of your eyes. And then you can start to, process it. And I feel like sometimes you have to write it down to even process it and see, like, this really happened. Yes. And then you move from there. And like you said, you're shaping it, you're writing about it. And as you're doing it, you're almost healing yourself from it. It's a real process when you start writing about real life stuff like that.
yeah, definitely. I think what it is too is the fact that sometimes you just got to find your audience. Like if you think about it, Edgar Allan Poe, when he put his stuff out, he got a lot of criticism for a lot of his like dark tales and stuff like that. But fast forward, here we are 200 years later, and they made a TV series based on his stories, The Fall of the House of Usher. I mean, you see stuff like The Raven being quoted on The Simpsons. The Simpsons did a Raven.
People love the guy. They love him. They love horror. They love that kind of
So
stuff.
it's a matter of finding your audience. I know that my book, um, it may not be a New York Times bestseller. Who knows? It may not go in the Oprah Book Club when she still had it, But I know that if my book can touch somebody out there and they either helps them open up or helps them get their own creative juices flowing, then I know that it's a success. So sometimes it's just a question of just finding your audience. I mean, somebody out there is looking for a poem that tells them that wants to help them express their feelings. Maybe they'll open my book, they'll see the Scars poem, and they'll be like, yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, there's a lot of women out there, or men even too, that are in bad relationships, toxic relationships, don't know how to get out of it. For one reason or another, they just feel, either there's codependent issues, there's something going on, or they're just waiting, or they don't know how to end it. And your poem might be that poem for them to change their life, to get out of that situation.
Yeah, it's like that perfect song or that one movie scene that you're like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, sometimes it is that, I'll even throw it in there. Sometimes you'll see a wrestling match. You'll see like a promo or something. You'll be like, damn, that's how I'm feeling today. Let's do it. And again, these are all ways to express yourself. And I'm like I said, I love that. I love the artsy stuff because It is. It's all a form of art. Whether you're writing, drawing, painting, wrestling, whatever it is, you're telling a story through multimedia. It's great. But yeah, you said you're looking at a fall release. That gives you plenty of time to kind of let this one kind of, do its thing. You said maybe some book songs, and that will help you also, I think, fine tune your audience and who is your dedicated audience.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I know my friends have bought some copies, and I know other people have bought copies that, like my district manager, he was the first one. I think he was the first one to buy a copy, out of my coworkers. And he actually said to me that reading it, now he looks at me in a whole new light. Like he saw a different side of me. And I think, and when somebody says that, it's like, yeah, it's like you think you know somebody, and then you read something, and you're like,
Well, I bet
oh.
the coworkers are probably buying it to make sure there was nothing written about them. They were getting nervous.
No, but there is a poem in there called Opening Shift where I talk about what's like opening the store. So,
Hey, opening shift sucks, but I'll be honest with you, it's not as bad as closing.
yeah, that's true. Maybe the next poem will be with the closing shift.
Closing shifts are the worst, especially when you're stuck alone. But I've done plenty of those in retail. It's not fun, not fun at all. But again, those are emotions. Those are what helps you get out. Me and my friend, a couple of years back, we were in, working a Whole Foods job, and he was the dishwasher. I was cooking, in the prepared foods, and every night it was, one closer. It was a really shitty time,
Oh,
and he
wait a
was
minute.
getting,
Wait. Which Whole Foods did you work at?
there's one in Newtonville.
Oh, okay. Because I used to work at the one in on Waterman Street in Providence, and then I worked at the Ink Block location in Boston.
Ink Block is a nice store. That's their
Yeah.
head flagship store. Was Barry your boss over there? Barry the
Yes.
store leader. Yes, yes, yes. Barry was my team leader when I used to work in the Fresh Pond store back in the day. Um, he's been in the company a long time, but that's a flagship store. But yeah, at the time, it was just me and this kid. I worked prep foods, and every night he was getting stressed, and he had stress issues. He'd be throwing the carriage, it's getting really agitated. It's only two of us. He wants to get out. The dishes are piling up, and we actually started to write a song about it. We wrote a song. At the time, the band, The Weekend, put out. I think it was no, it wasn't The Weekend. It was Future. I think they put out the song "Low Life." And we sat home one day, and he was having a bad day. We sat back, we smoked a little, and we rewrote the whole song. We called it Whole Life, and we rewrote the whole song just using Whole Foods terms and shit. And we sang it out, and we just had fun doing it. And like me and him, that's how my channel started. We started doing things like that. We started doing comedy skits. We started doing stuff to get our mind off of work because work was no fun. But if we can make people laugh or make ourselves laugh in between, that's kind of how we were getting through the night. And people at work were starting to watch and they were enjoying it. And I'll be honest, I wanted to put more work related skits in there and comedy skits, and he was like, "No, don't do that." I'm like, "But why? I want to like mock the manager." And he's like, "No, don't do that." I'm like, "Okay, fine. I won't." But yeah, that was our way of coping. We did these comedy skits. We did these fun little things. Again, another way to kind of get through the day. And it was very therapeutic because you're doing, like I said, in that instance it wasn't really sad. It was making light of things. It was almost the opposite spectrum, but it still was the same therapeutic way. At the end of the day, we felt accomplished. A and B, we weren't so negative. We weren't stuck in that negative grind of doing what retail is. And it gets to be that just mechanical grind of every shift, the same shift. You start seeing the same customers coming in at the same time, ordering
Yeah.
the same food every night. And it's like, wait a minute, is this like Groundhog Day? Am I Bill Murray? What the hell is going on?
Well, I was in store support, so I know exactly how that feels. Pretty much the same thing every day. I pretty much memorized almost every code that we had. Like 4138 was bananas, 4225 was avocados. I probably have them backwards, but yeah, it just got to the point where I just could like put the numbers in and scan everything quick. without even looking. So yeah, I get that. But that's why I turned to writing a lot. I mean, there was actually, speaking of the way you say parodies reminded me, there was actually a short period of time where I was like parodying songs. Like I did Jeff's Beautiful, set to the song You're Beautiful by James Blunt. I dedicated to Jeff Hardy.
Yeah,
It's and then I did another one when Matt Hardy won the ECW world title, and I said it to Queens, "We are the champion." It was like Matt is the champ. It was
that's
so
awesome.
sad, but yeah, yeah, I would do stuff like that too for me to kind of get my expressive side out. And unfortunately, because of my toxic relationship, I couldn't really express myself too much because it's like every time I tried to put product out there, he would be in the background, kind of, even though I tried to get him involved in a way, he just kind of flattened it out, so to speak. Like I would be all excited and
Yeah, no,
everything, and
I
he'd be in
get
the
that.
back,
And
like,
I
yeah,
mean, I'm
So,
not in, I'm
yeah.
not in a toxic relationship now. I mean, I'm very happy married. But my wife isn't always a supporter of the wrestling. She's not always a supporter of the podcast. So I get what you're saying. Where like you're really proud of an interview, you're getting something out there, and then they're like whatever they say, and it makes everything just flatten. It's flatlined. It's like, oh, wait a minute, and it's like I was just way up here. Now, granted, it doesn't happen often, but like you said, in your case, if it's happening every time, it becomes damaging. It becomes damaging to yourself. You don't want to put out content. You're like, what's the point? If the person I'm with or I'm next to isn't even supporting what I'm doing, then what makes me think strangers are going to do it?
Yeah, that was a lot of my problem. I mean, with my Sunday skillet, when I used to do that on Facebook, I would ask his opinion, like, "What do you think of the food?" All he say was, "It's good." It's like, but can you elaborate a bit more? So I just kind of felt like I was being stifled creatively, and now that I'm finally on my own, it's like this wall just came down, and I've had people who have been very supportive of me, encouraging me to go for it, and I have been, and it's been like just one creative outlet after another, and now I'm like so happy that I'm putting this out, and the fact that I put a book out was is just something that still amazes me. This book has been out for a month, it'll be a month, I think, next week, and I still can't get over the fact that I go to Amazon, I put this title in, and there I am. My picture, my name, my book. There it is. And it's so like mind-boggling that I was able to pull this off. And I'm
That's
so
awesome. Though. It really
I'm
is. I
starting
mean,
another book, and it's just I'm just so happy that I actually did it. And just yeah,
like I
I'm
said again,
just
I'm
so
very
happy
proud of you
about
on
it.
many accounts. One A, like I said, the hardest thing, getting your real life emotions out there. That's tremendous feat. Second, you planned the book. This is before you put the book out. You planned it. A lot of people plan a lot of things that it never comes to fruition. For one reason or another, either A, it starts going and they don't like it. B, they lose interest. C, they just don't have the drive to finish it off. Many factors. You actually finished through, you followed through, you went through the whole process, you got it to come to fruition. You got a copy of it, a hard copy of it in your hand. It's not just even an ebook out there on PDF, it's a printed version, real book, something solid, tangible. Um, Again, you made it come to fruition. This is, creation, a
Well,
birthnight.
actually, you can get it on ebook Kindle, so you can either buy it
Yeah,
or you
but what
can
I'm
rent
saying is,
it, but I get paid either way.
but it's not. But like I said, it's not like you just typed it up on Word, saved it as a PDF, and passed it around to your friends. You published this book. You made it into a readable, sellable book that somebody is willing to buy. They have bought it, so it's a finished version. It's a full copy. It's not like a song that's not mastered. It's the mastered edition. Granted, it might not be the perfect edition in your mind. Maybe it is, but it's out there. You got it to come. Because that's another issue with a lot of authors and artists and everything. They're never happy with that final product, so it never gets out there.
Yeah, did you
And
know that Stephen King wrote his first story, Carrie? He actually threw it out in the garbage. His wife said, why'd you throw it out? He said he didn't think it was that good. She read it and thought it was really good. He was like, okay, I'll give it a try. Edit it out. Next thing you know, it's the number one bestseller of 1976.
and that's the thing. We're the hardest critics on ourselves. We're the first to doubt ourselves. We're the first to say it's no good. We're the first to say this is trash, that we suck, we shouldn't do this. We're the hardest on ourselves. It's the truth. Yes, there'll be other people out there, but they'll never be as hard as you'll be on yourself. And
Definitely. I
it's
mean, I
constant
was
either because
scared to put this out. I didn't know if anyone was going to try. Like I knew that when I wrote that first poem for my class, I was like, how's everyone going to react to this? And when I saw everyone Zoom applauding me, I was just floored that they all liked it. And then they kept encouraging me. I've been told no almost my entire life, and I was always told that I was not very good at certain things. So I kind of felt like weird whenever someone actually legit said they liked something. So now it's like, you know what? I like it. I know you're gonna like it. And if you don't like it, I know you're gonna tell me. But this time I'm not gonna take criticism to heart.
well, and that's the thing. I mean, realizes you're not gonna have everybody a fan. There's gonna be some people that it might not be their style, right?
Yeah,
I
I just
always
had
say
somebody
this in
today tell
wrestling.
me she's not gonna buy it because it's not a romance novel.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's kind of like wrestling. It's very reading is very subjective. There's people that there's a niche audience for almost every kind of niche in the world. There's so many different books, so many different styles. Same thing, like I said, like I bring it back to the wrestling book for a second. So many different types of wrestling. Some might not, might find the comedy core great. Other people might find it to be, cringe. And some people, again, if you're watching movies, for instance, it could be the funniest movie. It could have the greatest actors. And it won't be, that's not the reason I'm watching it. I'm not watching it just because I might not be in the mood for a comedy or I don't like certain comedies. Because I'm more of a horror fan. With reading, I'm a little bit different. I will try to give at least, like similar to music, I try to give at least everything a little bit. Movies, I'm more just horror. I've tried. I really have over the years. My wife will get me to watch certain movies. I'll watch certain Disney movies. I'll watch obviously certain action movies. There is certain, sappy movies I'll watch time to time. And she gets me to watch holiday movies, which I'm always never a fan of. But um, so I'm a horror fan. Those are the movies, to be honest with you, that I can escape in. When the world is all chaotic, I'd rather be in, the horror world. Whatever's on there isn't scary to me because the real world out there is scary. That's where the horror is, right? On TV, it's more like magic. You're stepping into that world, kind of like the wrestling. You're stepping into that world. You're escaping. Same thing with the book. You're reading into it. You're escaping. You're hopping in. I do that with a lot with horror because that's where I feel comfortable. As weird as it is, some people they don't like horror. They can't watch it. It gives them, makes them anxious. For me, I can go to sleep watching, and I feel comfortable. Um,
What's
just
your comfort horror film?
I'm weird like that. My wife is always forever yelling at me because I'll fall asleep, and an hour later there'll be some lady screaming the top of her lungs on the TV because there'll be some murder scene, and she'll wake up like dead out of her sleep, and then she'll wake me up. Go, what the hell? Shut that off! And I'm like, I'm sleeping.
What's your like comfort horror movie? Like what's the one horror movie that you have to watch to kind of feel better?
Okay, it's this movie. It's not even that known. It's called Dead End. Um, it has what's her name? She's an older lady now, but she started her career I think well, she was in the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. She was the teacher that he bumps into. Her name's on the tip of my tongue. She's been in a lot of movies. But it's basically Dead End. It's about a story about a family that goes on it's Christmas trip, and yeah, it's Christmas. Going on a trip as a family, and something happens. The father falls asleep for a second. They spin a little bit. They stop, and then they start getting picked off one by one. And this road that they're on just never ends, never ever ends. And they just keep going, and they're driving. They're trying to get to this city called Marcotte, and they're trying to figure out if it's a naval base. What is it? Why isn't it on the map? And they one keeps dying after another in weird ways. And every time one dies, you see this, a hearse take them away. And so at the end, it's just the daughter and the father gets taken away, and the daughter's running, the forest running, the forest, she runs into the light, and all of a sudden you see her like come to in the hospital. And it brings you all the way back to the beginning of the story where the father kind of fell asleep. He actually crashed, and everybody died.
Oh.
And at the end, you see this guy talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, this was crazy, and you're the guy that found her. And he was like, yeah, we're the ones that found it. And he gets in his car and he drives away, and it says Marcotte Funeral Home. And it brings me back to an old episode of Twilight Zone, where this guy, he dreams of this place called Willoughby. And every night he has this really stressful job. And every night he dreams of, he gets off this train, and he's in like summer of 1805, and it's beautiful out, and everybody's chirping, and it's perfect day, and it's called Willoughby. And he keeps trying, he only can get there in his sleep, but he doesn't get off. He makes a stop and sees out the window. And then one night he decides to get off. And then it changes over, and it shows the train that he jumped out the window. And you see the funeral home coming. It says Willoughby Funeral Home.
Oh,
I
that's
love
your
real
comfort
twisted.
horror movie?
I love real twisted stories like that, and that's where a lot of my stuff. That's another comfort show. If I have to pick a show, would be Twilight Zone. I can watch that over and over.
Well, yeah,
again.
it's a classic.
But a lot of my stories have come from that. A lot of my inspiration has come from that. And like I said, that movie kind of reminded me of that, with that twist ending. I love twisted stories. It doesn't have to really be a slasher for me. I'm not a big, huge slasher fan. While I do appreciate it, I like a good psychological, scary thriller. Otherwise, I don't get moved. Like, jump scares don't really work. It has to be something that really gets into me and under me and gets me thinking. Otherwise, I'm just sitting there laughing, honestly. And over the years, I feel like there's not a lot of really scary movies, or I've just seen a lot and become desensitized. But I do love a good horror. But yeah, that's another one of my release. When the day's not going so good, I'll throw on something kind of scary, because it has all of that. It has the same thing, kind of like, again, I bring it back to the wrestling. It has that violence, that gore, but it's staged. It's no one's getting killed for real. And that's what I kind of like about it. Again, it kind of releases that. Another thing I do is video gaming. Honestly, I'll play video games, even at my age. Which I find to be more common amongst people now, is the video game, to get out aggression and to play.
Yeah, definitely.
In the age that we're in, everything is kind of digital and tech, people just have moved on with the times, where I feel like all the generations stopped. The computer came out, like, I don't want to learn it. I don't want to know how to use it. I don't want to do this. And then it got to a point where everybody just kind of started learning, using, and moving along with it, and just, continue doing it. And you said, you write your stuff right to the computer. I know some people still do it from pen, and then they have to retype it, or they'll typewrite it and then have to retype it into the computer. Still doing it.
Yeah, that's not my style. I've tried doing the write on paper, typing out, and I wind up doing more editing than anything else. So I'm better off just sitting in front of the computer. I used to do the same thing with a typewriter. Showing my age. Sit in front of the typewriter and just type, 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 type. I'd rather do that than write in the notebook and type it out, because then I just wind up editing more than writing. So I'd rather just sit at the computer and write. I'll just open it up, and if something comes to me, I'll just sit down and I'll just write.
it's funny because like I once, I had a notebook, and I would write stuff down, and not one thing that I wrote in there ever got retyped because I just got kind of lazy and was like, shit, I already wrote it once. I don't feel like retyping it.
Yeah, that's a lot of the
Um,
problem too. I mean, you don't want to
so
rewrite it and rewrite it and
no, so
rewrite
what
it.
I
You want
started
to
to
sit
do
down and
is
do it.
if I had inspirations or something on the run, like I'm out and about, I'd make it. I use my Apple phone. I just go into notes, type it, and then I'll just copy and email it to myself, and then add it to whatever else I'm working on.
Well, that's the beauty part that I have because my computer has Microsoft Word and my Microsoft Word is on my phone. So if I type something on my computer, I can look at it on my phone and vice versa. So I
You know,
always have it with me.
I have that feature. You'd think I would use it. I don't. I have that because I needed to be honest, I needed to get more email storage. For some reason, my email keeps emptying out. And to get more email storage, you got to update the account. To update the account. It comes with free Microsoft. And I read all that about that. You can sync it right to the computer, Microsoft, which is amazing because you do get inspired. And Microsoft's great because it comes with all these editing tools. That's the one bad thing about Notebook. You to get it to format right, it's ridiculous. You have to end up spending
Yeah.
another 20 minutes to reformat it.
Yeah.
But that's great. I'm gonna have to revisit that because that will make things easier. Because sometimes now I write like a lot of I don't really write poetry anymore, but I'll write like hip hop rhymes or like small songs
That
and
is
stuff.
poetry.
I feel it is. And I'll write out verses and just sometimes I sing them out, sometimes I put them out, sometimes I do whatever with them.
Well, sometimes it's not even, sometimes, even if you don't want to like do like a major publication like I did, if you write it and you feel good about it, that's your go-to thing. Like there are some stories that I've written in the past that will never see the light of day, but I like going back and reading them because they make me smile.
Oh,
Actually,
I don't even care about that. I got like 300 shitty songs on Spotify. Like I put everything out. If it's trash, I put it out. If it's good, I put it out. It just goes.
definitely. I mean,
If
it's out
people
there
hate
for
it, I put it out. It don't matter. I'm just gonna put it out, and
yeah, there are some
that's the.
stories I have on my live journal that I still kind of cringe to this day. Even though I love the fact that I wrote them, I just know that these stories are going to bite me in the butt one day because some of them, I actually, for a while, was in the genre of slash fiction. If you know what slash fiction, you've ever heard of slash fiction?
No, but
Okay.
it sounds fun.
From the late 90s to the early mid 2000s, when the internet was really starting to become popular, there was a small genre called slash fiction. And it's basically when you take major characters and you write like these, for lack of a better phrase, erotica stories about them. Sometimes it's homoerotica, sometimes it's borderline naughty stories. And
You got the
there
rocket
was,
scene. You got the Hardy brothers together, boys together. You got all sorts of stuff in that channel, huh?
well, it's funny you should mention that because but yeah, there was a lot of Seaton, which was John Cena and Randy Orton. There was a lot of Cody Assi, which was Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. And I admit, a good thing the lighting is dim here because I'm blushing right now. There are some stories I've written that I know will haunt me will haunt me to the point where I know someone will read it and be like, "You wrote that?" I'd be like, "Yeah."
That's okay.
but
That's okay. When I
you
first,
honestly, I go back, I read it, and yeah, it's cringy, but at the same time, I actually like them. I thought I did a really good job with some of my stories. So
so like
it's
I said, I used to like to do artistry, right? And I still do, but I figured I would give illustration a go, right? And this was around that same time. I'm going to date myself. Let's say it was around 2002. Internet is in its infancy. People are in Yahoo chat rooms, forums. You don't really know. There's a messenger. Come across a lady looking for an artist for her work. She has this. She has a whole identity. She's a detective, whatever. And she says, my story's about myself. I need to draw it in comic book form. I said, okay. I said, what's it about? So she starts to tell me, and I forget the exact phrase she used because it had a phrase, but basically, all of her stories involved herself getting kidnapped, tied up, and then tickled. But nothing more than tickled. It didn't go beyond the tickle. All the sexual release came from the tickling. And it was just tickling like at the belly or under the arms. It was the strangest thing. And I ended up not being able to draw a lot of it because it just wasn't transforming over into the way I wanted to draw it, because it was very weird because all the stories were almost the same. But yeah, that's how I was introduced. I was like, and she's like, I have 3 books out, and she's showing me these like detective books, and it's just all the same story. It goes into a place, gets hit over the head, kidnapped, dragged, and then tickled. Tied and tickled.
Yeah,
Um,
that the genre that I was a part of has gotten a lot of popularity over the years, and so much so that even Seth Rollins himself um, famously said in an interview, "I know you guys write this stuff. You need to cut it out." So, so yeah, it is known out there. I'm just hoping
yeah,
that
but you
one
know
day they
what?
will have it in space.
People can hate on it, but at the end of the day, wrestlers are a character. And wherever there's a character, there's going to be fantasies about that character. There's people that fantasize over Marvel characters. There's people that fantasize over movie characters. So why wouldn't wrestlers not be included in that? They're major characters.
Well, actually, the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy actually started out as a Twilight erotica fiction, so that can happen.
And I mean, and that is there's a niche for everything. There's something that pleases everybody. I never really, there's people that are into everything. So if you can find it, they'll find it, and it might be like, oh my god, or what? But to them, it's whatever. And there's a group, and there's sometimes whole groups, and that's what it is. And I don't even get involved. It's just if that's what their thing is, cool. Like I mean, I didn't have an issue with what she was writing. I just found it funny because at that point I was very young, and she was very much older. She was in like 45. So I'm like 20, and she's 45. And so it's almost like this Miss Robinson kind of thing going on. Yeah. Because she's trying to like also flirt at the same time through, chat.
Oh, cuckoo
And then
you, Mrs. Robinson.
she's like, and then, again, I'm 20, and she's having to me do sketches. And so then she starts sending me these provocative photos. But again, it's always her just tied up. Like, it's like at the time, I guess at the time, I was kind of like, what the F? But today I would consider it a cosplay or a role play kind of deal. And it probably has its niche in there's probably some convention for it. Because it was always very strict. Like she made sure that like the detective outfit had to be on point. Like it had to look like a real detective. It had to have the right initials. She was from England as well. She wasn't from the US. And so it had to look like an English detective would look. And it had to have a lot of authenticity.
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot of like work. As much as it was weird, there was a lot of work into it.
Well, you did, but you could say you did it.
I did it
And
for a minute. I tried it.
a lot of people would have passed on that, but you took on the challenge and you went ahead and you did it. I mean,
Now,
just like I
sometimes,
just took on the
honestly, I
challenge of
have an open mind.
just writing. Just go
I
ahead and
have
do
an
it.
open mind. And sometimes you have to have an open mind. Even in writing, like you said, to put that out, you have to have an open mind and kind of just, forget about what you've been told, what you've been taught, what people have said, and just kind of do you for that moment. And like you said, forget about what the teacher said back in the day. You're different. You're not that same person now. And you don't even know why they said that. They could have just been having a bad day. They might have thought you were better than them, and they didn't want to make themselves look stupid that a kid could write better than an adult. There's many reasons.
Well, she wasn't even a real. Well, she wasn't even like a teach. She was a computer teacher.
And that's
So
another thing.
Yeah.
Teachers are teachers, and some of them are just people, and we're all just people, at the end of the day. And a math teacher might cover science, doesn't mean they know anything about science. Or again, they might not like it. They might not like that science. They might like a different type.
Well, I'm glad that you said that because I have a surprise for you.
Yes.
Yep. I call it VSP. He has a show. He is the host. You can see he loves it. He asks the questions. His eyes light up at the answers. He really wants to know. From wrestlers to actors to, yes, even me, he wants to know it all. He has a show. He is the host. He has fun. He'll keep having fun. The show succeeds. He is the host. And what a great host he is.
That's awesome. Very good.
Yep, I wrote that for you to let you know that I appreciate you letting me come on here, promote my stuff, promote my book, and I want you to have continued success. And if you want, I could email that poem to you, and you can use it on your website.
Thank you. I really, really honestly appreciate it. I really do. It's people like you, I see you comment on my posts. I see you watch some of my lives. I see you interact. People like you that do keep me going. Because sometimes, you see crickets out there and it's like, why am I doing this? I know I'm not a big superstar. At least not to anybody but my kid. But if I can do my part to try to get out there to help others, whether it be get eyes and ears on them, and it doesn't just have to be wrestling. It can be, personal stuff too. You want to get a book out there. People got artistry. They want to get their artwork out there, songs. I'm more than happy to help anybody I can do that. And, like I said, you've been a great guest. You came on, you talked about your podcast. And I'm hoping, honestly, when all this clears up and your writing goes, I hope to see you back podcasting. I really do. I think you have it in you. Even if you didn't want to do it solo, I'd bring you on my show. You can co-host with me. I really do see it in you to get back on the mic. You have a lot to say, and I think, through all this, I think you're going to get that confidence back to do that.
I would love to do that. I've actually spoken to my friends about it. We've actually talked about maybe doing one last run. It's just a matter of scheduling it because, as you know, life can get in the way. And yeah, there are times where I do look at when I see all the guys on TV there, and I think I interviewed you once. Like I see people like Cedric Alexander, I see him on there, and I'm like, I interviewed you. And then I see like Michael Bennett, I on AEW, ROH, AEW, and I'm like, I interviewed you. I interviewed Matt Taven. I interviewed Vincent. I see them, and I was like, oh, I miss those days. So I would love to get a chance to try to do it again. But like I said, it's just a matter of making the time to do it. So in the meantime, until I can actually get the time to do it, I'll just, I'll hop on shows like this and I'll help out when I can. And I do understand that there are other shows coming up and I look forward to hearing them. I think you did an interview with somebody named Rob. Um, Rob Roberts, I think that's
Yep,
his
I did
name.
do Rob Roberts.
Yep.
He's an old Yankee Pro wrestler. Came out of Yankee Pro back in the day. Does some showcase wrestling. Worked out of Woonsocket.
Yep. So I heard I look forward to hearing that. And
And
I
I had
thank you for
also
the in
actually
uh
also have Donkey Boy coming on. Donkey Boy Bandit coming out of Maine. He's a great character as well. And I have to say, I was really impressed with your friend there, Stan Styles. What a great show! My
I know
God, what a great guy!
I told you he was awesome. I had him both when he was Stan Styles, and then I had him when he was stunning Stan Styles when he was like
Yeah,
a Hugh Hefner character. So it's yeah, so he's all around, and I'm so proud of seeing him with the CWO. Um, Even though my background's blurry, I have a CWO magnet on my fridge.
I had to buy
But
the hat.
and I always kick
I'm a
myself
sucker for
because
that.
it's like every time I find out he's in the New England area, I'm working and I can't go. And I'm so sad every time I can't see him. So it's like
Someday, I tell you what. Someday we got to just make plans and take the trip to the H2O Center and go see him out in Jersey.
that's the other thing. Every time I used to go to the Monster Mania convention down there, he would always have a show on that weekend. And I'm like, do you know I'm coming to visit and you do this to me on purpose? I mean, it's like And it's always in a part of Jersey I can never get to unless I have to take this train, that bus, that Uber. I
No, we
mean,
won't take no trains or buses. I've done the H2O route. We can do it in 4.5, maybe 5. It's not that bad. But yes, I have done it. I went to that arena, and he does do the IGB, the Intergender Bonanza, which I've been dying to get to. But I have to say,
oh yes.
his teaming up with Focus Pro and doing this whole Creamcast thing was amazing. It had that Intergender Bonanza feel from what I've seen on TV. Almost every match was there. Him versus Zoe was amazing. His entrance coming out as Shredder, but being the creamer.
Oh my God, lucky you got to see that. I'm so jealous.
He came out with his CWO. You got Mark Angel up in there and all these people. And I was impressed once again by, how great the indie scene can be, both in character work and in wrestling. It can be very impressive. It was on par with AEW, with WWE, and anything you could see on TV. And it was in one of the coolest arenas too. It was in a brewery, so everyone's kind of chilling. Very nice vibe.
Yeah, definitely. And I look forward to doing more shows. Maybe I can come back when the second book comes out. And I think I may take you up on your invite on any future shows if you ever want to extend an invitation.
Yes, I mean, if you see it,
and have my own opinion, and trust me, I've got a lot of opinions about wrestling. But what I've been told by Matt Hardy himself, I have a good head on my shoulders when it comes to wrestling podcasting. So when you have that kind of validation, you have a pretty good idea. You know what you're talking about. So
definitely, I mean, if you see an interview that's been promoting coming up, and you want to hop on, it fits to the timing. Hit me up. We'll bring you in. And same thing. You have an idea for a weekly show. You want to talk wrestling? You want to talk the indie scene? You want to talk major scene? Come on, I'll host it. We can have some fun. There's no harm in trying. It never hurts to try. You proved that. You tried and succeeded with that book. Again.
Definitely. So
one more time, I just want to say, again for the people at home.
Finally, oh, there I am. Hey.
Okay. That's the one thing about
there we
go. Finally finding
and accepting myself. Poetry about who I'm discovering and what I've discovered. Here's what the back looks like. There's little me right there. Don't I look cute? And it's on Amazon.com, both in paperback and Kindle e-form editions. You can also do Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited also pays me for when people read the stuff. And I hope to
see. Oh, do you get paid from that? I always wondered that because I do have Kindle
Unlimited. As it turns out, anytime somebody reads Kindle Unlimited, I get paid, I want to say like 10 cents a page. So, and there's 40 pages in this book. So you do.
And the next, I hate to break it to you, but the next move before the next book is to turn that into an Audible.
You know what? I've been told I have a pretty good voice for radio, so who knows?
Hey, you did podcasting. I'm just saying. My wife, she has hard time reading. She can't see as well, so she's been hitting that Audible, and she goes through a book a day.
Yeah, definitely. And Amazon self-publishing doesn't have an Audible option yet, but if they did, I will definitely put my book to audio and read the poems, and so that way people can hear my ASMR voice as I read each word slowly.
Well, what you should do is maybe read just half the poem in snippets and make a quick Instagram to get people to buy to read the rest of the poem.
I don't know how to do that. I have been going live on my TikTok every couple of weeks trying to get people interested in it.
So. I feel like, honestly, I'll be honest about TikTok. I feel like it's changed. People changed on there. They changed the way people get seen. I used to do
because Gen X is taking over.
Yeah, now it's something different. Pretty soon it's going to be bought, sold. At one time they were actually paying me. Now they said no and changed. But yeah, similar to that, I find like Instagram now is the place to go sometimes for promotion. It all depends, though. It depends where you're most dedicated.
The link is in my bio on my Instagram. So if you go on my Instagram page, that Daria chick, the link is right there in the bio as well. I also have.
I'm going to put the link. I'm going to put the link in this video too. I'm gonna put the link in this video so folks can find it that way as well.
Yeah, I have it pinned to my profile on Facebook. I have the Instagram, my Instagram account where it's linked there. I have it also linked to my Twitter. I refuse to call it X. I have it linked on my Twitter, both for my old show page and my personal page. So there are several ways you can buy it, and I'm always sharing the link whenever I can to try to generate more interest because I know there's a lot more people out there who know I've written a book but just don't know where to get it. But yeah, it's on Amazon.com. Finally Finding and Accepting Myself by Gladys Bishop. I hope you get a chance to check it out and read it. And like I said, I'll send you a copy of that poem so you can put it up on your website so you can have something for you. And for you, just keep going with this. This show is amazing. I'm so proud to be on it again for a second time. And I hope to continue to keep coming on when I can to chill out whatever I got going on. And I look forward to hearing your future episodes, especially with Rob Roberts, that I know got coming up. So I can't wait to hear that. Thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate being here.
Thank you very much. Can't wait. I actually gonna have to order a copy. I know I have the Kindle, but I'm a hard copy person myself. I need to actually have a physical.
There's no law that says you can't get one of each.
Well, I got the Kindle Unlimited, so I could read it for free. But I don't know. I don't have the patience. I end up reading one page and I fall asleep. So at least with the book, I have to physically move it. And
well, if you get the book, I'll autograph it for you.
But yes,
I'm waiting to do that. I'm waiting for my first autograph. I don't know who it's gonna be, but I can't wait to do my first autograph.
I will. I'll buy it and send it to you. You can sign it and send it back. It'd be great. I'll put it in my collection. I actually have the Young Buck book signed. I actually have New Jack's book signed. I can put it with that.
I still have my copy of Exist to Inspire, autographed by Matt Hardy, and I also have my copy of Heartbreak and Triumph, the story of Shawn Michaels, autographed by Shawn Michaels. So I probably put this book in between those two. Would you believe this is the proof? Because it says right here, not for resale, because this is the author's proof copy. I actually got this, of all days, I got this on Mother's Day. So it was quite the surprise coming home and seeing this sticking in my mailbox. I don't know if you saw my unboxing video about it, but yeah, you can see the excitement on my face when I opened up the package and pulled this little baby out. It's like
nothing like seeing, like I said, a piece of work come to fruition, something that you've done, something that you produced, and then here it is now, finally here, ready for the masses. Again, congratulations. And I wish you the best in all of this. And we will touch base and keep base because I do love bringing guests back on to see where they're at, what they're doing, how they're doing. And I said, invitation's always open here. And again, folks, at home, check this out. It's a cool book. It might not be, the typical wrestling stuff that we promote, but check it out. It's something different, something interesting, and something fun. And as always, support indie wrestling. Thank you, everybody.